All right, so for math today, we're working on Unit 9, Lesson 7, partition circles into equal shares. So the last lesson that we worked on together, we worked on partitioning rectangles into equal shares. So we did Unit 9, Lesson 5 together. That was the last one. So we were doing rectangles. Today, we're going to be working with circles. And although it's the same because we need to make sure that we're dividing them equally, they're different because how you divide a circle is not the same as you divide a rectangle. And you'll see that shortly. So our objective is today I will partition circles into equal shares. So it's important to remember what partition means. So partition means to divide objects into equal shares. So when we're talking about a rectangle or a square, right? Something like this, like a sheet of paper, I cut it into a square. When you divide it equally into half, okay, or when you divide it in half, each share or each piece needs to be equal. So if I fold it directly in half, I should have two parts that are the same. I'm just folding it, or if I was doing it on a paper, I would just draw a line straight down, okay? Remember, equal shares. So if I needed two pieces or two halves, if I folded it right here, is it equal? Is this piece equal to that? No, right? It's not equal. It's very important that you remember that you're dividing your shapes equally, because it wouldn't be fair, right? If you and your parents had say a chocolate bar and your parents said you get half and your mom or your dad says you get one half and I get another half, and your parent cuts it like this and they give you this piece and they keep all the rest to themselves. Is that fair? No. So you want to make sure that you're dividing or partitioning your shapes equally. Okay, so just like I showed you right now, when you partition your rectangles, you're just drawing a line from one line to the other, straight down or straight across, rows or columns. Today, we're going to be working with circles. So here is a circle that I cut from the same shape or same size as our rectangle. And you see, just it's a little bit off. You notice that the middle, when you cut it down half, it's straight down the middle, and that's fine. But when we have to go into thirds or fourths, it's a little bit different. We don't just partition right down the middle or down from top to bottom. We're going to cut it as if it's a pizza. So we're going to go across the circle from one side to another every time we have to divide it or partition it. Okay, so right here, our vocabulary words. So here's a whole circle. So this one whole. So when something is all together, it's one whole. When you cut it into two pieces, it's one half or halves. Okay, you see there one half is shaded here. For thirds, if there's three pieces, okay, this is 1/3 is shaded. 1/3. If there was two that were shaded, it's 2/3. And then fourths. 1/4 is shaded here. Because there are four pieces, it's fourths. So how you say it is depending on how many pieces there are. So if there's no pieces, it's called a whole. If there are two pieces, it's a half. If there are three pieces, it's a third. If there are thirds, and four pieces are fourths. Okay, so for today's lesson, there are two steps. You're going to partition the circle that is given into the given amount of equal shares. And then step 2 is to shade one share, only one share. Okay, it's important to see this, one share. All right, so number one says partition the circle. So divide the circle into halves. Oh, what does halves mean? How many pieces do I have to cut it into for halves? Well, if I don't remember, I'm going to go back over here into my chart and I'm going to check. Well, it says halves. It shows me 2 pieces. So I'm going to cut it in half. Okay? And then shade one half of the circle. So I'm going to take my red marker because it is input time. Now, remember when you take your shape, you cut it right down the middle, and then those are 2 equal pieces. If I draw a line that goes something like, or if I draw the line or cut it right here instead, is that equal? If this is my line, is that equal, having this and this? No, right? So you need to make sure that it's right in the middle. I'm gonna take my pen, or you would use a pencil, go right down the middle. Now, it doesn't need, you need to make sure that it's as close as possible. Okay, so here we go. We have our circle partitioned into circle halves. I've done the first part. The second part says to shade 1/2 of the circle. So I'm going to just go in and shade 1/2 of my circle. And I am done with number 1. Okay, number 2 says to divide the circle into thirds and shade 1/3. Okay, so let me look back in the question to see how many they want me to cut it up into. Well, okay, divide the circle, yeah, into thirds. So how many pieces does a third have? Over here it says 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to cut it up exactly like this, as if I'm cutting up a pizza. Okay, so I'm going to draw a line down the middle, and then once it gets to this point, I'm going to draw it out to the left and out to the right. So down the middle. Once I get about a little bit past halfway, I'm going to go out to the left and out to the right. And then I'm going to color shade in 1/3. So I have divided or partitioned, and I have shaded. How much of the circle is shaded? 1/3. Is shaded. Easy peasy. All right. So the rest of the activity is the same. You're just partitioning your circles. Remember to make sure you're doing all parts of the question. So partition the circle into fourths. How many pieces do fourths have? According to this chart, it has 1, 2, 3, 4. And you're going across. Okay, fourths means that there are 4 pieces. So every time they say fourths, you need to make sure to go down the middle and down across. And then it says shade 1/4 of the circle. Sorry. 1/4. How much of the circle is shaded? 1/4. Because it's 1 out of the 4 that is shaded. Remember to write in complete sentences. Is shaded. Okay, and last one, divide or partition the circle into 2 equal parts and shade 1/2. Would it be equal if I drew a line like this? No. Make sure you remember that 1/2 of a circle is just going right down the middle. And then you're going to go in and shade one of your halves. And that's it. Easy peasy. This lesson isn't very difficult for you guys. You guys need to just remember to go back to this page to see which one you're going to be doing, how many times you're dividing. If it's a whole, you're not dividing at all. If it's a half, you're dividing into 2 pieces. Thirds, there's 3 pieces, and fourths is 4 pieces. All right, guys, get going.